What
right?
if they're doing it together, like in the same room, like the swinger people? And so it's not like, because even the Mormon swinger people were like, you can't go off with somebody like without the other person knowing or something like that. Or maybe it was even in general.
If you look at this and you say, oh, yeah, this makes sense. Like if you've never been with anyone else, you guys just got married young, you never experienced anything else, and you've been together for 20 years, you have a solid relationship, then yeah, together you decide that you want to explore some other things. From a naive standpoint, sure, but someone could say, well, that's because you did do stuff, and now you're, which it's hard for me to refute that, right? But I know in my heart that it wouldn't matter because I know in the past that part, even though it did go through my head, it wouldn't have compelled me enough to I would never open a good relationship just because I had lacked the experience. Yeah.
But yeah, I understand your perspective, but I'm thinking after hearing what you said, maybe this couple does talk about their things with each other because they've agreed to both do it.
But the thing is, look, I mean,
and so maybe they don't feel guilty. Maybe they're subconscious. Maybe they don't get into bed with each other and they're like, they don't feel bad about it because they're both doing it.
For now.
I mean, I agree.
Eventually, the reality will hit. That's the thing
sustainable
about this, right? Because you can't avoid the emotion. You could do this after a 20-year marriage if all that's left is a friendship.
Yeah,
and even then, you're still hurting a friend.
Roommates.
You're still hurting a friend pretty badly.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Even when you were saying that this person's like a friend, I wanted to bring it up then, so I guess I'll bring it up now because you're bringing it up. That doesn't still even seem like a friend to me because, like in the situation where it's one-sided or you're cheating, you're hiding it. That's not a very good friend. But like you said, even if they know, it still doesn't feel very friendly to me. Like I think the better term is you can coexist with each other. You're like roommates who also interact more than normal roommates, right? You're like two roommates who kind of are friends with each other-ish, but you're not close. Because you can't be close if you're hiding things. Or like even if you're sharing intimacy with other people, you can't be as close, as you would be in a monogamous relationship.
And that's where the real bad thing comes in, is because you're not just betraying a marriage and a relationship and a commitment. You're betraying a friendship also that you're carrying on, knowing what you're doing. That's the probably where I would imagine that it stings the most on the other side of it, is that part of it. And that's the thing that makes you feel really shitty. I can tell you, is like, because it's like, I know what game I was playing and what things I was saying and how I was acting as if nothing was going on. And that's bad, right?
Right, that's lying.
Right. And so, so what I'm saying is that regardless of what they say or how cool they are with it, if your relationship has degraded to the point where you are just roommates, then it's kind of a moot point, because you're not really opening up the relationship anyway. You're just making a business deal, a partnership deal. You're just roommates, and you're essentially getting a divorce, except for on paper. You're right. You're hanging out, you're friends with benefits, whatever, but you're not really friends, because you can't have the intimacy because you're destroying. No matter how open and honest that people are about it.
What if they're doing it together, like in the same room, like the swinger people? And so it's not like, because even the Mormon swinger people were like, you can't go off with somebody like without the other person knowing or something like that. Or maybe it was even in general. And so I think they were all like in the same room. Do you think that makes a difference? Like if they're there and they're seeing the things? I mean, I would think that's honestly, it's all bad in my mind. But that might be even worse.
It's worse. That's what I was about to say. Because I'll tell you why. I mean, I'm trying to think how to keep this still PG and say this, but you're eating some ice cream, right? And then, and then with your partner, and then someone else is eating some ice cream with your partner, and it appears that your partner enjoys that ice cream better. They're making better noises about the ice cream. Just gonna say, this is just part of the thing. Don't tell me it's going to be 100% equal every single direction that you everywhere in the food court.
No.
Right? It's not. So, and tell me that you're not going to feel a way about that, no matter who you are. Please, let's not
if
even.
You've been together for 20 years. Like, that's a long time. And like you said, even if like maybe your relationship isn't as close or whatever as it once was, and that's why you guys are doing it or whatever reason,
right?
You're going to care still because you've been with this person for 20 years.
When someone that doesn't even like you, right? Expresses their dislike to you or says they're not interested in you, you care as a human being. It pisses you off. People actually try to get with people that they don't like because that person is rejecting them in some way or has slighted them to get that validation. This is a real thing. It's not a good thing, but it's human nature. So I can't even imagine that it just, I understand that people think that it's working.
Right.
But the shit always hits the fan. That's what's going to happen. When you realize what you're doing, when you come to terms with the truth, like, it is one thing to be stoic and to not be jealous and to suppress that as much as possible. But when it's in your face, when you're having a relationship with someone where you had something that was exclusive to you and now it's not,
right?
No matter how perfect of a saint you are, you cannot help but feel a way.
Right. I agree.
So, I mean, can you imagine, like, I guess the other thing I was going to say is, like, because some people are justifying it, obviously saying, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I think from a naive viewpoint, if you look at this and you say, this makes sense. Like, if you've never been with anyone else, you guys just got married young, you never experienced anything else, and you've been together for 20 years, you have a solid relationship, then together you decide that you want to explore some other things. From a naive standpoint, sure, seems fine. But let me ask you this question. If me and you got married, right?
Well, we did.
at 19 or, like our first person we'd ever been with, and we had the relationship that we have, and it's, would you ever think that was a good idea?
No.
Or even think that you would even want to consider it? I mean, maybe some thoughts would be going through your head, like, I wonder what it would be like to be with other people, or I wonder what other kind of relationships would be with. But see, people think that, like, that's such an essential thing. I have never tried heroin. I have thought to myself, I wonder what heroin would be like. Not to a serious degree. I don't need to go and experience heroin. I don't need to try some...
You better not.
I don't need to smoke crack, right? I don't need to do those things. So that's why I say that if you have something that's good, just because you haven't been with other people, just because you haven't had the experience, and again, I'm saying it from the perspective of someone who was in that position.
Right.
And I did do what I did, but I didn't for 15 years or whatever, and I wouldn't have had a relationship like we do. And it's easy for me to say it now because of how good our relationship is,
right,
and because of how attracted I am to you, and but someone could say, well, that's because you did do stuff and now you're, which it's hard for me to refute that. Right. But I know in my heart that it wouldn't matter, because I know in the past that part, even though it did go through my head, it wouldn't have compelled me enough to I would never open a good relationship just because I had lacked the experience.
Yeah. I mean, you still had one other person, which is not a ton, but it is still something to reference. And I'm not saying that I agree with what they did.
Right.
But I do think that there is something to them getting married so young and only being with each other.
Right.
I have always said that I think that is a horrible idea. You know what I mean? Like, I get that if you have something really good, like you and I'm not saying not to do that. But at the same time, like, because you have had no other experiences to base anything off of, even if it's amazing, I think anybody would have crazy thoughts. I'm not saying to open the relationship.
Right.
But I'm saying that they just literally have nothing to compare. Even one other person to compare it to is something over nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not justifying it.
Right.
But I just want to stress that I've always felt like I don't think people should get married very young.
Right.
My parents didn't get married very young, and they instilled in me, you know, like, you should go and live your life. Like, not saying go and live your life in that way.
Right.
But to live my life. And I agree with that, because I was even having a talk with Sophia a few months ago that if you find somebody in high school that is your soulmate, like, I get that is like a big deal. But then now you got to make sure you go to the same college, or at least close enough. And then that could limit what you want to do as far as your college or your career. That could limit what they want to do, because now you're focusing on just trying to stay together. And then, like, you have all these decisions now that are based not on what you want to do, but what you want to do as a couple.
Right.
And you're so young that you don't really know what you want to do yet. Like, with your whole life, like, you can know that you want to be in a good relationship and you want to have like a traditional marriage, or like a marriage full of love and like with someone that you really, really care about and that is your soulmate. But also at the same time, like, getting together in high school, you still have so much growing to do, even in college.
Right.
Like, and I'm not saying to break up with the person you want to be with, but I think people who get together really young need to not get married until they're like 25. You can stay together,
but
you need to wait, because once you're married, now you officially really do have to involve that person in every single aspect of your life. Like, you have to take them into consideration because you're married. But if you're in a relationship, you could get to like college and be like, actually, like, I love you, but I want to go do this. And they can make the choice, right? Okay, I'll follow you. Or, well, I want to do this.
Right.
And you can go your separate ways. And maybe in a few years, you end up back together. Like, you don't know. Like, and I get it's complicated, but I also get that I'm just thinking, because I was in a relationship, right? Like, all throughout college.
Right.
Literally all throughout college. And people were like, when are you guys getting married?
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to do that. You know, like, I had just finished college. He didn't even finish college.
Right.
And I'm like, I want to go use my degree. Like, I want to go out in the world and I want to do something. And he was like thinking about going in the military. And I'm like, I don't want to follow him around. Like, I want to do my own thing. And granted, it wasn't
thought differently.
It wasn't the right relationship, but like, I just feel like when you're that young, you don't have a lot of life experiences at all. And so if you just get married and now you're doing like everything together in the sense of, and sometimes too, you're doing things for the other person and they should also be doing things for you too.
Right.
That like, you do feel like you've missed out on making some of your own decisions and figuring out who you are as a person in a lot of ways.
Right.
That when you get 15, 20 years in, you're like, I'm still kind of confused from back here. You know, like, I'm still kind of confused from 19. I'm still kind of confused from 21. And I, you know, like, I've lived this life. I'm not saying that they're not living a happy marriage or there aren't good times, but I'm saying that, like, when you get married super young, I do feel like a lot of people end up having not all of them, but a lot of people end up having these like, well, I didn't get to do this. And then now they're doing things like opening their relationship, or they're doing things like this. And if you waited until you're 25, no matter if you stay together or not, or if you're with your soulmate or not, if you give yourself enough time, because that's also when your brain fully develops, is at 25. So I think you can make a lot. Oh yeah, for men it's like 43. But you know, I think 25 is a good age because you're still young.
Okay.
But your brain is fully developed and you've also gone through a lot of things.
Yeah.
And if you're still together,
yeah,
you can handle that, you know? And then now you're in a place that you guys both probably figured out your career, even whether you've stayed together or not.
Yeah.
Or you at least know more about who you are. I'm not saying that you don't figure that out, but I just think that it's a better recipe because there becomes all these questions that you never got answered because you never had the opportunity.